1845. The British Empire was at the height of its power. On the map, there was still one place left blank, covered in white, silent, deadly. Its name was the Arctic. Britain said, "We will go there." Two ships were prepared, the strongest technology of the time, the most experienced sailors, 129 men. They did not simply get lost, did not sink, did not fight a war. They were erased from the face of the earth. And to this day, the world still asks the same question. What happened to the Franklin expedition? The expedition was led by Sir John Franklin. He was experienced. He knew the Arctic, a man trusted by the Queen herself. Two ships, HMS Erebus, HMS Terror. Even their names sounded ominous. The ships carried preserved food, warm clothing, a library, even a piano. Britain believed, these men will return. In May 1845, the ships set sail. It was the last day they were ever seen. At first, everything seemed normal. The ships moved steadily through the cold Arctic waters. The crew was confident. Diaries were written. Watches kept time. Everything appeared to be going according to plan. But the Arctic never reveals danger immediately. As autumn approached, the weather began to change. A thin layer of ice formed across the sea. Day by day, it grew thicker. The waves weakened. The water fell silent. And then, one day, the ships stopped moving. HMS Erebus and HMS Terror became completely trapped near the Victoria Strait. At first, it was considered temporary. Everyone thought the same thing. Spring will come, the ice will melt. But spring did not come. The ice did not break. Instead, it grew stronger. At first, everything seemed normal. The ships moved steadily through the cold Arctic waters. The crew was confident. Diaries were written. Watches kept time. Everything appeared to be going according to plan. But the Arctic never reveals danger immediately. As autumn approached, the weather began to change. A thin layer of ice formed across the sea. Day by day, it grew thicker. The waves weakened. The water fell silent. And then, one day, the ships stopped moving. HMS Erebus and HMS Terror became completely trapped near the Victoria Strait. At first, it was considered temporary. Everyone thought the same thing. Spring will come, the ice will melt. But spring did not come. The ice did not break. Instead, it grew stronger. By 1848, the situation had become unbearable. The ice had not loosened. The ships had not moved. Supplies were running out, and hope was nearly gone. The crew faced a decision no expedition ever wanted to make. They would abandon the ships. HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, once symbols of British power, were now silent prisons of ice. Leaving the ships meant one thing. There was no turning back. The men packed what they could: food, guns, heavy metal tools, even silverware. They believed these items might help them survive. But they were wrong. They began their march southward, hoping to reach a distant trading post hundreds of kilometers away. They walked across endless ice, pulling sledges behind them in temperatures that dropped below -40 degrees Celsius. Every step drained their strength. Every breath burned their lungs. Worst of all, they ignored the advice of the Inuit. The Inuit had warned them, travel light, move with the land, not against it. But the expedition did not listen. They carried too much. They moved too slowly, and the Arctic showed no mercy. One by one, the men collapsed. Some froze where they fell. Others could not stand again. The decision to abandon the ships was meant to save them. Instead, it marked the beginning of the end. Years passed. No message came from the Franklin expedition. No survivors returned. At first, Britain hoped. Then it worried. Then it feared the worst. And so the searches began. For decades, multiple expeditions combed the Arctic, mile by mile, ice field by ice field. What they found did not bring closure. It only raised more questions. The traces they discovered. Sometimes it was a single bone, a partial skeleton, an old boot frozen in the ice. Nothing was ever complete. Some bones showed signs of breaking, cutting, long exposure to the elements, but never enough to tell the full story. Each discovery was only a fragment, a sentence torn from the final chapter. The missing records. The most important evidence was never found. The journals, the diaries that could have explained the final days, the final decisions, the final moments, were gone. It was as if the last pages were ripped out or never written at all. That silence was more unsettling than any written confession. Ships found, answers missing. For more than a century, one question remained. Where are the ships? The answer came 170 years later. In 2014, HMS Erebus was discovered. In 2016, HMS Terror followed. The ships were remarkably well preserved, almost untouched by time, but inside them, no people, no journals, no final explanation. The ships were found. The story was not. Questions that remain. Even now, critical questions have no answers. Who survived the longest? How far did they travel on foot? Did some of them reach farther south? Did anyone die alone, far from the others? History offers no clear reply, a silent ending. What remains of the Franklin expedition is scattered bones, empty ships, and a silent Arctic. This is one of history's rare mysteries where evidence exists, but truth does not. There are traces, but there are no answers, and perhaps the Arctic never intended to give them back. The Franklin expedition never returned. All that remained were empty ships, scattered bones, and unanswered questions. Britain tried to forget this story for many years because it was not a story of victory. It was a story that showed how powerless humans are in the face of nature. They set out with the most advanced technology of their time, but for the Arctic, it was not enough. Perhaps if they had made different decisions, perhaps if they had listened to the local people, perhaps if they had not rushed, the answers to these questions will never be known, because the Arctic returned only the traces, not the truth, and even today, beneath the ice, lies the silent defeat of an empire. What do you think? What truly destroyed the Franklin expedition? Nature? Wrong decisions? Or is history still hiding something from us? If you had been in their place, alone in the ice, when hope was gone, what decision would you have made? If there is so much evidence, why don't we still know the truth? Do you think the answer lies in the Arctic itself, or in documents that were never fully revealed? Do you believe they crossed a line just to survive, or did they have no other choice? Now it's your turn. What is your view on the Franklin expedition? So tell me, do you think the answer has never been found, or has it simply never been told? No one witnessed their final steps. No one heard their last words. But the traces left in the snow suggest they kept moving until the very end. No letter was ever found, no farewell note. Their final moments were lost in the silence of the Arctic. Perhaps some of them went a little farther. Perhaps the final breath was taken somewhere else. Perhaps the answer still lies beneath the ice. The Arctic saw everything, but it never spoke. and perhaps it never will.